Step 0. Select a scene from a story you're writing or make one up. If you want help on how to quickly write a story in less than 4 minutes, watch this video. Link is in the description. This is the scene I'm going to panel. Step 1. Jot down what happens at the start and the end of the scene. For my scene, it starts with no plague of locusts, then ends with the locusts arriving. Step 2. Jot down what happens emotionally to the characters at the start of the scene and the end. You must keep this in mind. Your reader needs to know why the scene matters. How will they know? Through the characters' reactions and responses. If the scene doesn't affect the characters in any way, trash the scene or rewrite it. At the start of my scene, my MC starts off chill. At the end of the scene, my MC is horrified. Step 3. Start with the necessary shots. A shot to establish where the character or characters are in the scene. A shot that shows how things are before things change. A shot that shows how the character feels at the start of the scene. A shot that shows how the character feels when things change. And a shot that shows how things turn out at the end of the scene. Don't panic, all you have to do right now is draw 3 squares. In the first box, write what's happening at the beginning of the scene. Underneath that, write the shot type. Remember, you have 3 to choose from. Wide, medium or close-up shot. Second box, write what happens at the end. Write the shot type underneath. Last box, write how the main character of focus for this scene feels at the end. Underneath that, write the shot type. Now, that leaves at most 2 more shots that your scene must have. A shot to establish where the character or characters are in the scene. A shot that shows how the character feels before things change. Depending on your thinking thoughts, 1 or more of your shots may already include these 2 narrative and emotional plot points. Either way, decide if everything that needs to happen to get from box 1 to box 3 is all you need. If not, Step 4. This is where you add more boxes if necessary. Do you need more shots to get from 1 to 2, or how about from 2 to 3? This depends on how fast or slow you want one moment to play out from the next. For my scene, I've expanded it to 6 boxes. Just a reminder. 1 box equals 1 panel. How many panels do you want per page? How many pages do you want to devote to this scene? It's up to you. I personally like a max of 6 panels per page. For the sake of this demo, I'm keeping it to the 1 page. Feel like shuffling some things around? No problem. The box order isn't set in stone, there is some flexibility to play with what you got. As long as there's a clear beginning and end, have at it. Step 5. Time to transform the boxes into panels. Vertical panels emphasize height, depth, or movement in that direction. Horizontal panels emphasize distance or length, or movement from left to right or right to left. Decide what panel type is best suited for your shots. Small panels read quick. Bigger panels read slower. Biggest panel on the page screams important. The more details you add to a panel also slows the reader down. Keep this in mind to use it to your advantage. Arrange your panels. This is how I did mine. I wanted the plague arriving to be the biggest panel on the page. My MC's shock will be sudden because of how unexpected it was for him to see it. Congrats! You just finished the first part to making a rough draft of your comic or manga. Now on to the next step. Just knowing which shots to use and picking the right panel shapes is amazing, but there's another thing to keep in mind: how your characters interact in the space of the panel. Take a look at this shot. What can you tell me about the relationship between these 2 characters? You have 10 seconds. Time's up. Proper placement and interaction of characters in your panels makes the emotion and conflict clear. It helps the reader feel what the characters are going through and makes the scene more immersive. The staging of characters is key in order for this to work. What staging, you ask? It's one of the 12 principles of animation. It's all about where everything is placed in the shot to tell the story as clearly as possible. I'm thinking this way because I used to be a professional animator for 10 years and a bit. But in other words, it's composition. 3 things to consider. What do I want the reader to look at? How do I show what the main character of focus in the scene is feeling, through the composition? How do I get the reader's eyes to get to the end of the page as smoothly as possible? Keep in mind the Z pattern. We read, left to right, go down, then left to right, and so on till we get to the end of the page. This goes for each panel also. Remember this for your staging. Okay, let's apply this to our comics. Set aside at most 2 hours for this part if you're following along. Step 6. Divide the panel into 3 equal parts, top to bottom and left to right. I use the rule of thirds to help with my staging. Your focal point, the main thing you want the reader to look at, will be on or around one of the 4 points made by the intersecting lines. Or, it'll be in the center. Everything else in the composition does what it can to lead the reader's eye to it, and then to the next panel. Step 7. What helps me is to find references for what I want going on in the panel. I mainly use Google and Pinterest. If I want different camera angles for characters, objects, or locations, I find something to work with on Sketchfab. I'll then take a screenshot and paste it into my comic. This is the quickest way for me to get a really rough draft of the page going. You can also scrub through a favorite show or movie and find shots that match what you need to use as reference. Step 7.1. Remember the feeling that's being felt. I think of staging as the tool to help show emotion in a straightforward or interesting way. As long as it's clear what's happening. I'll walk through my staging choices. Panel 1, my MC is chillin' like a villain cause he's avoiding his work. He's pretty happy and proud about that. Because of that, I chose a close-up with the camera looking up at him to show he's feeling smug. When the camera is looking up at something or someone, it gives that thing a feeling of strength, power, dominance, or superiority. Panel 2, the establishing shot to show where my MC is. Nothing too crazy with the shot, but I wanted the staging of the characters to set up what will happen in the next panel. My MC's wife is going to see the plague of locusts first. so she's staged to be closest to the window to see what's coming. Panel 3, a close-up of the wife looking on in horror. She's looking right to help the reader's eyes also move in that direction. Panel 4, my MC joins his wife to see what's all this then. Their eye direction continues to help the flow to the next panel. Panel 5, with this close-up of my MC's face, I chose a Dutch tilt for 2 reasons. 1, to help the reader's eye move to the final panel. 2, to help tell the story that something's not right. If you don't know, the Dutch tilt is when the composition is put on an angle. It gives a feeling of unease because of the tilt. Panel 6, my biggest panel on the page. I wanted to give the feeling of this is bad by using scale. I want the locust swarm to be a dominating force. It isn't staged quite as well as I'd like, but the camera is meant to be low and looking up at the massive swarm. Thanks so much for watching and God bless.